Right. Welcome back to What She Said Sports, everybody. Okay, so we got a special show for you tonight. We were going live anyway. However, if you saw what happened or you heard about what happened with Texas A&M versus South Carolina game with a state trooper intentionally shoulder checking, body checking, intentionally running himself into Nyck Harbor. Now, I didn't know who Nyck Harbor was today, but I guessed. Let me guess. He's a top NFL draft prospect. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a top NFL draft prospect. When I saw what happened, the first person that came to mind was Kyren Lacy. And why is that? Because when Kyren Lacy's, it came out, when his attorney came out and said that Kyren Lacy was innocent, everybody, or they started talking about the incident and how he was framed. Kyren Lacy was framed. One of the things I asked on my own video that didn't get a lot of love, but it's okay. It's okay because I knew this day was coming. I said, being a Louisiana girl, being a NOLA girl, I said the state troopers have a relationship with the university, LSU. What has happened recently? The president got fired, the athletic director got fired, and the head coach, who had little apathy after Kyren Lacy, it came out that he was framed, had little apathy at all, has been dismissed, and they weren't losing, right? And I said to myself, Kyren Lacy, I said, because I pointed out that the district attorney went to LSU, to law school at LSU. I said, there's no way the president or the head coach, who's protected by the state troopers, one of the duties of the state troopers of the universities, whether it was Coach Prime at Jackson, whether it was Brian Kelly at LSU, or whoever it is over at Texas A&M, is to protect the head coach. So the state troopers are assigned and paid. These are jobs that they have the privilege of at the university. They're on the payroll. Shout out to Texas A&M for doing the right thing expeditiously. But see, LSU did not after Kyren Lacy's passing. Neither did head coach Brian Kelly. Kyren Lacy's father even pointed out. He barely had a word to say to us. I pointed out in his press conference, they had to ask him about it. And he didn't want to talk about it. And I thought that was strange. But I didn't think it was strange when he got fired. I didn't think it was strange when the athletic director got fired. And for the first time in 132 seasons, which is 132 years, going back to like 1898, LSU has its first Black athletic director. Now, they're not a stranger to Black university system presidents, but they were definitely not very friendly and welcoming of Black athletic directors because, as you know, from us just watching what's going on with Coach Prime at Colorado, the athletic director carries a lot of weight, influence, and power and determines who's in and who's out. So when I saw the state trooper today with 3 people in the tunnel, I said, what was the goal? What was the goal? Because it was 3 people with Nyck Harbor, who's headed to the NFL, already being compared to Calvin Johnson, who retired early. He was a wide receiver like Kyren Lacy, and DK Metcalf, who's with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a top prospect coming up in this draft, just like Kyren Lacy. And just like Kyren Lacy, Nyck Harbor was targeted. But see, this time it was caught on camera for us to see because it happened in the tunnel, and I don't know what the goal was. Now, I've seen the headlines. Some people had to straighten out their headlines saying that Nyck Harbor had a run-in with the trooper. No, he didn't. Saying that the trooper was in an altercation with Nyck Harbor. No, absolutely not. The state trooper targeted Nyck Harbor to the NFL in the first round and thought that he could abuse his power in the tunnel where maybe he didn't think we could see to target only him because there were 3 of them and he pointed directly at Nyck Harbor. Then I asked this after we talked about Kyren Lacy and how the DA knew in January and said Kyren Lacy could not have known that he was responsible for the accident And turns out he was not responsible for that goddamn accident. He wasn't anywhere near what they said. Yeah, there were people on the scene that said something about the green charger. Understand this, and I said this. I said Kyren Lacy is from, is it Thibodaux, Louisiana? A small town. Not very, very financially sound. I said all the cars in Thibodaux are white, blue, red, gray, your standard primary colors because they come from the Ford, the Kia, the Toyota dealership. They don't have Porsche and Mercedes-Benz in Thibodaux. That green Dodge Charger stood out and they knew who it was. Now, the man who said the green Charger is at fault was just an ordinary citizen, and they always get it wrong. But the troopers knew who drove the green Charger. Just like the Charger, the trooper in the tunnel knew which one of the three to point at. Yeah, I said it after we started talking about how it is that Shedeur was targeted after he became a first round draft pick, after he was listed as number one. We talked about how he was targeted, and we talked about how he was devalued by the NFL after he was assassinated. His character was assassinated by only one franchise, the New York Giants, and the media had a hand in it, and it's not new. When I was getting ready for this podcast, I ran into the same rumor mongering that tried to take down CJ Stroud. Why this don't happen to white quarterbacks? Why does the NFL allow it? Why did the NFL disinvite Kyren Lacy to the NFL Combine? And why the hell did they invite Shedeur to the Combine if it was said by their insiders that the NFL didn't want quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders? So they let him in, and you see how they mistreated him. And what did it take to expose that he was being targeted? It took for the prank to go viral. We're going to take a look and revisit that today. So here it is. We have Nyck being targeted by a state trooper who works for the university. We have Kyren Lacy, who was lied on and targeted by state troopers that work for the university at LSU that then fired his goddamn body, and for the first time in 32 years want to bring in a Black athletic director. No coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. The district attorney went to law school at LSU. And then we got Shedeur Sanders, who was targeted, but law enforcement had nothing to do with this. He was taken off the board by the owners and devalued after a character assassination by the New York Giants. And that ball just got fired from over there. Cleveland's day is coming. Now, do you see the connection here? With all of these young Black star athletes being targeted as they are headed to the NFL draft. Now, I don't know what the hell the goal was today. I don't think he did it because he was upset, because he should have been upset at all three of them. But people say he's upset because Nyck ran back a touchdown. I'm like, oh, you think they fired him for that? Kyren Lacy. The state troopers in Louisiana are on the hook for lying on that young man. Brian Kelly showed apathy. No empathy, apathy. Even his family called it out. And I bet the same state troopers were still escorting Brian Kelly because that's one of their jobs. But it should prove to you that they knew who he was. It should prove to all of us that these state troopers are always around. And when I was looking today, state trooper responsibilities at LSU, it said directly to protect the head coach. It also gave me the list of all the police harassment, including the troopers, by LSU athletes, of LSU athletes who are Black, including Kyren Lacy. While Brian Kelly was the head coach. There are no coincidences here. There are no coincidences that Texas A&M, who already had their damn problems, when Kevin Sumlin was the head coach, they had their problems because they targeted and they harassed his family. And they sent nasty death threats to his family because he was a Black head coach. So shout out to Texas A&M for getting it right this time. Not letting it fester, not letting it linger, because he targeted the one in the middle. He didn't care about the other two. Maybe they're not going to the NFL this year. Just like Kyren Lacy. I wonder how many green charges it is running through Thibodeau that run up the road that goes to Baton Rouge. They all knew who he was. And I asked, why did they have to be the green charger? And what police out here in Thibodeau just believes because somebody said the green charger did it? Kyren Lacy's car was supposedly the cause of a head-on collision that he was almost a football field away from. The woman behind that rear-ended the man in the gold truck, he moved off the road, not for Kyren Lacy. He was already driving slow. She wasn't paying attention. It happens every day, but it had to be the green charger because once they realized the green charger, oh, the one from LSU, oh, that kid, just like the trooper today, I'm going to take you down a notch. Is that why in Louisiana, when the DA had come back and said there was inconsistencies in the trooper report, who was targeting Kyren Lacy? Is that why they let the grand jury play out, even though it never had to get to that point? The grand jury was supposed to be 2 weeks before Kyren Lacy was drafted. Just like Isaiah Bond was falsely arrested and accused 2 weeks before the draft. Just like while Quinshon Junkins was negotiating his guarantees in his contract, here comes a false case that the DA actually said in Florida, this has nothing. But what did the NFL say? Oh, we're going to keep investigating. And who took Shedeur off the board? Just in case you need a reminder. The NFL itself. The owners. So let's get it straight. Kyren Lacy was falsely accused, and the truth was known in January, and he was disinvited from the combine in February. What did Brian Kelly say when he was asked about Kyren Lacy? You know, we don't want to speak on these things because these things take time. That case didn't take any time. Just like Quinshon Junkins' case didn't need to be further looked into by the NFL because the DA said this is fraud. They say they talk to these kids about extortion, but there's a source of targeting that these players' parents and families and guardians better start talking to them about. And it ain't the women. It ain't the scammers. It's their future employer. That's what they need to be talking about. Because Shedeur Sanders was taken off the board by the NFL after a character assassination, after the NFL gave out his phone number. Understand that. That had nothing to do with external sources. That's internal. The media just played a hand in it by telling us about it every day. But the work was an inside job. Kyren Lacy was taken off or disinvited from the combine by the NFL, even though a full 30 days before the invites went out, he was innocent. And what did they say? These things take time. Don't worry. Just make it one more day to your grand jury. You'll be found innocent because they already had the proof that he was innocent, but they wanted to let it play out because these things take time. And guess what would have happened? The same thing that happened to Quinshon Junkins. He would have had to go to tooth and nail to be drafted in the first round and not be devalued like Isaiah Bond. And understand that Shedeur, Isaiah Bond, Quinshon Junkins all ended up in Cleveland. And Cleveland didn't draft no wide receivers. Were they going to get Kyren Lacy? Nobody expected him to pass. They were trying to devalue him, though. Let's let it play out. These things take time. But just like Quinshon Junkins, it didn't take no time. The DA said ain't nothing here. The DA said in January, right after the 2 years, nah, that's not right. They already had the body cam footage and everything else, but they sat on it. I wonder who wanted to take advantage of this young man having to stare 50 years in a penitentiary in Louisiana for something he didn't do, only to get to a grand jury that they insist he would have been found innocent of. I still don't know how you know that. One, grand juries are a secret process and they indict when you sneeze. So how is it that he was going to walk away from a grand jury indictment? How are you so confident? Because they already had the damn evidence but they sat on it for their own benefit. And the reason why this situation was so confusing was because it was so many different entities involved. And there's one out here that ain't said shit. And that's the one that these parents need to start talking to their kids about. Nyck Harbor might want to put on a body cam from now until he gets a minute training camp. And I asked, after we talked about Kyren Lacy and Isaiah Bond and Shedeur Sanders and Quinshon Junkins, and just in case I didn't say Kyren Lacy, I said it. Who they gonna get this year? Who was the cop pointing at? 3 people in a tunnel where you think maybe cameras can't see you. You intentionally. What you wanted to do? Start an altercation with him? Thank God he was in the middle of a game and with 2 more of his colleagues. Because they could have probably used that to make sure he wasn't a first-round draft pick like Isaiah Bond or Kyren Lacy. Understand, they know exactly what all of these top players, they coming out. They might not know exactly what team they're going to, but they know they're coming out. And that is why Shedeur Sanders, Kyren Lacy, now Nyck Harbor, Isaiah Bond, and Quinshon Junkins were all targeted, and it is not a coincidence that Quinshon, Isaiah, and Shedeur ended up in Cleveland. Let's see what Nyck Harbor ended up at, because we know Cleveland need some wide receivers. Let's see if they try to use this to say, well, he was going to go first, but, people just think maybe he should go to the 5th or the 6th, and maybe you're going to understand what the hell the goal was today. There's a source out here that people are not looking at when it comes to these players being targeted. Trumped up charges. People that they thought they could trust suddenly turning on them. It's not a coincidence that in Kyren Lacy's situation and today with Nyck Harbor, it's law enforcement who the NFL relies on for information about these athletes. Remember, they do an extensive background check. And I'm just shocked as hell that the DA who went to LSU didn't say nothing to Brian Kelly about his star athlete. And that the NFL didn't reach out to nobody. Hell, including the Mannings, who from Louisiana, to find out about the star athlete top draft prospect that they had on camera at the draft in 2024, talking to Jada Daniels and his other LSU teammates. He was a part of that draft process. They knew he was coming. Why they didn't go to bat for him? All they did was take him and disinvite him from the draft. You know that had to hurt. And no, they didn't know his life was going to come to an end. But what were they planning to do? Yeah, we know who you are, but look what happened. So we can't draft you first. Why would they disinvite that young man? It's the same baffling question that you have on why they would take Shedeur off the board. Not a coincidence, they all first-round draft picks. And now people want to run around and say Shedeur was a late first-round pick. No, the hell he wasn't. People expected him to go to the Giants, which is ludicrous in my opinion. And the Browns are on the record when he was going to be day draft pick. So he was somewhere between 2 and 3. Just because he interviewed with Mike Tomlin late don't mean he failed to number 21. If they knew Jackson Dart was sneaking into the first round, they had already decided to lock Shedeur out of it. That's how good Shedeur is. They had to lock a lie and say they locked him out of the first round. After the draft, it's documented. Teams say we didn't lock him out. Everybody didn't know about the plot. Because you can't tell 5,000 people what you get ready to do. But there were a lot of people that knew. Like Eric Dickerson said, somebody on the inside told him, he's not lying. Look at Kyren Lacy. Look at Isaiah Bond. Look at Quinshon Junkins. Look at Shedeur Sanders. And now look at Nyck Harbor, as he is also headed to the NFL draft. Just in case people need a reminder, let's just take a listen to this. It's like his father has been negatively affected with emotional distress, right? After what? Being publicly humiliated in front of 7.3 million people. And let me tell you what Colin Cowherd is doing. He knows that. He knows what happened to Shedeur was what? coming off the heels of what? The NFL draft being devalued, colluded against. They took him off the board and didn't even tell him. They had his phone number. Why they didn't call him and tell him? Because they sent his phone number out to 2,000 people who did not need to know. Where's the accountability for that data breach? Where's the accountability for the collusion against Shedeur? For the owner saying, take that entitled so-and-so off the board, which was language lifted the tongue of the New York Giants head coach, which was a lie. And after Ms. Pilar called out the New York Giants, they backed off of their lie about he was prepared. This young man's nickname is Gronk, right? So Colin Cowherd is deflecting from the damages caused by emotional distress, cruelty, collusion, public humiliation. He's deflecting because he's saying Shedeur Sanders shouldn't be QB1 because he got a speeding ticket. Fans are asking, is connected Dart and the New York Giants? As you know, the New York Giants are the only franchise to issue defamatory and negative statements against Shedeur Sanders. So, did the New York Giants intentionally defame Shedeur Sanders to justify drafting a lesser talented QB and Jackson Dart, who went to Ole Miss? Questions that need answers.
Hey, is this Shedeur? Hey, this is Mickey Loomis here, the GM of the New Orleans Saints.
Now, as you can see, there's been no forthcoming information. Some people have referred to him as the Ole Miss frat boy. Early on, he was identified as the boyfriend of the daughter who goes to Ole Miss, who's friends with Jackson Dart, who's also friends with the Mannings, that this is her boyfriend. So another inside job, whether they go together or not, another inside job, because how did he know Shedeur wasn't going to the Saints? Also connected to the Mannings. Ole Miss connection runs from at the quarterback position, Ole Miss, to the New York Giants, the Mannings. Who did I say Eli Manning's son was dressed up as for Halloween? Jackson Dart. Arch Manning, the patriarch of the family, if you will. Eli Manning, Jackson Dart, Joe Schoen, the GM of the Giants, and his daughter, I do believe, are all Ole Miss alum. They all know each other. They say we all know each other. I don't know Stephen A., but they all know each other. You see what I'm saying? So the Giants wanted their guy. Here's the question. You have free will. You could have just drafted Jackson Dart. I never believed they would draft Shedeur. Why did they have to drag Shedeur into it, to drag him down and assassinate his character? Why did they have to drag Kyren Lacy into it when the evidence shows he had nothing to do with it? Why did they have to sit on the evidence and schedule his grand jury conveniently 2 weeks before the NFL draft, just like Isaiah Bond got arrested 2 weeks before the NFL draft? And he got devalued and picked up by Cleveland. Shedeur got devalued, picked up by Cleveland. Quinshon Judkins, who gravitated towards Shedeur, caught a case. The DA in Florida said ain't nothing here, and the NFL said, well, I want to look into it. There's a source y'all are not looking at. And these players coming out of school right the hell now, you better understand. You better walk around with a goddamn body cam on, because it ain't the strangers out here that's the problem for you. It's where you're going. And then when you get in there, Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, people are floored with how disgusting of a hit job Bleacher Report did on Lamar Jackson. They thought people were going to like it. Who they trying to satisfy? So essentially, your life is gravy until you get ready to become a top draft prospect. Then not only do you have to watch out for the people out here that's trying to get you and scam on you because you're going to be rich. Now you have to worry about the people sending people to take you down before you get in, so you never get to the generational wealth. But they can still get your talent because they're going to devalue you. And people thought this was just about Shedeur. Nope. Let's talk about CJ Stroud. Now, I wasn't watching the NFL when CJ Stroud came out. I think after Lamar, I might have been out. Came back with Michael Penix Jr. They trying to make him look crazy, right? Because they want to get rid of him. They want to get rid of Raheem Morris, the head coach. Don't be surprised that's who they choose as the head coach. Don't be surprised. So you already know about Lamar in 2018, right? He's too short to be a quarterback. Lamar is 6'3". He's better off to be a running back. He's athletic. We want his athleticism, but not at the quarterback position. But then Shedeur, they say he's not athletic, and they didn't want him either. So let's talk about CJ Stroud. So got 2018 Lamar. We got CJ Stroud 2023. You got Shedeur Sanders 2025. One way or the other, they don't get you. So just check this out, right? First of all, we make sure that y'all can see my screen because things happen. All right, you can see it. I'm glad I checked. Okay, so it says CJ Stroud is the latest target. Keyword, latest, meaning this happens all the time. And what word did I use? Target of the NFL's pre-draft rumor mongering machine. Not just any rumor mongering machine. The NFL, the same NFL that they said, the NFL itself allowed people to run around and defame Shedeur. So it says right here, Stroud and every other prospect deserves better than the dubious claims that pop up every year. Now, mind you, I'm only seeing this with Black people. I'm only seeing this with Black quarterbacks. I'm only seeing Black athletes who are top candidates, top draft prospects, be devalued. And now I'm seeing a pattern with them headed to Cleveland. Now you should be thinking to yourself, did Cleveland really rescue Shedeur? No. They pushed him down on the ground after they said, hey, we want to draft you for $46 million. And then they got quiet while the Giants, they buddies, led a character assassination. They were quiet. They were very quiet. In fact, they said, we don't have no problem with Coach Prime. People thought Haslam and Coach Prime were friends. I don't know why they thought that. Maybe there was something out there and I didn't see it. But there were a lot of people that have pretended to be Coach Prime friends, but no, they were just reeling the Sanders in. Notice they never reeled in Shiloh. They just didn't talk about him. Just like they didn't talk about Cam. They dismissed Shiloh and they trying to get rid of Cam. They're trying to devalue him so he could be a QB2 somewhere next year. They don't even care that they paid him $48 million. It's just he's a Black quarterback and we want you the hell out the way. They were never even concerned about Shiloh. They knew they weren't going to draft him at all. So when he did get an opportunity with Tampa, they knew exactly how it was going to end. Not a coincidence, he didn't get cut because of his skills. He was targeted. Key word. While he's in the NFL, who totally overlooked him. But to get him out, he was targeted. So it says right here, this is the lady that wrote this, somebody named Sarah. So what it should tell you is that this pre-draft rumor mongering that devalues certain athletes. She says it right here. The pre-draft scrutiny of certain players, Black players, of certain players. She could have said it, but she wanted to be polite about it. So it could pass some kind of test to get published, I guess. Of certain players. The quotes from anonymous sources. In 2023, Shedeur had just gotten to Colorado. They already knew he was coming out. They already knew what they were going to do to him because they did it to CJ Stroud. They did it to Lamar. And they probably did it to people before him, but I wasn't paying attention to them. We all paying attention to Shedeur because they've done this so many times that God sent Shedeur with 6 million people so we could all see with 12 million eyes and call it out. And not just to call it out, just to call it out. Deliver accountability. The pre-draft scrutiny of certain players, the quotes from anonymous sources, the unfounded whispers has long been a staple of this process. That's why Shedeur came in with as many fans as he did. And if they were smart and they truly didn't want him, they shouldn't have invited him to the process because we wouldn't even know about this. But they greedy. It said, it's never been one I've enjoyed, particularly because we know everyone is lying at this time of the year because so much of it is just gossip that serves no purpose. Actually, that's incorrect. The purpose is to devalue and accomplishes nothing. False again. They end up devalued. Shedeur was robbed of $40 million. So it accomplishes a lot. Nothing beyond tainting a young man's character. Okay, that's it. Understand this. They're not tainting Shedeur's character, Isaiah Bond's character, Quinshon Junkins' character, Kyren Lacy's character. Tried to taint Nyck Harbor's character for nothing. There is a lot that comes of it. They get devalued. The process is old as dirt. Certain players, black players, and not just black quarterbacks. Shedeur was, understand this, CJ Stroud still got drafted, didn't he? But not after they humiliated him, like they humiliated Lamar. But with Shedeur, they took it a step further. They locked him out of the first round. They let Cam Ward get drafted, but he had been sacked by 38, 40 times, maybe 42 by tomorrow. So they're making his life hell. But they took it one step further with Shedeur. They locked him out of the first round. And then they took him off the draft board based on lies that happen every single year. So the owners have nowhere to hide. Y'all let this happen every year. You know it's bullshit, but you use it to your advantage. Kyren Lacy, the truth was apparent in January. The NFL never had a reason to disinvite Kyren Lacy because everybody knows they do an extensive background check. They talk to your neighbor's dog, if that's what they got to do. Andrew Berry said it. They go back 4 years. That's to Shedeur all the way back to Jackson State. This lady just said it. These lies happen every year, but they serve no purpose. That's false. I'm not going to say she's disingenuous, but that's what it's given. Because if you've been a part of this process, you know what happens to the people they lie on. You know what happened to Shedeur after they lied on him. Again, they took it one step further with him. They humiliated CJ Stroud. They humiliated Lamar Jackson. They still got drafted, but it cost Lamar Jackson money. But he was humiliated first. Then he was devalued. But they always knew what they were going to do because they didn't want him to be a quarterback. CJ Stroud got humiliated, but his agency stepped up and called these people out and said, none of our clients are taking this stupid ass test ever again. The Wonderlic test that they gave to Lamar, that they gave to Lamar, they had to do away with that one. Then they moved on to a different test and try to humiliate CJ Stroud. And you already know what they're trying to say. Cognitively, he's not there. This is every black quarterback. So it is a purpose, and it does have an impact. Because look at what happened to Shedeur. He got reeled in during the Super Bowl weekend to be somebody that they respected, appreciated, and they were fine with his celebrity. But then they're going to come out and say, we don't want quarterbacks like him. But then they're going to draft him and humiliate him, starting with the Giants from day one. And yes, that ball has been fired. Not a coincidence. Shout out to Ms. Pilar for calling him out. Shout out to Coach Prime for calling them liars. But if these people come into the damn NFL draft, you ain't paying attention. You better get ready for this. If you insist on coming this way, you better get ready to be lied on, to be devalued. And not just when you get to the draft, but from every moment that they realize you a top prospect. You better keep your head on the swivel when you out here in these damn streets or when you out here playing a game because you're being targeted. So you never get to your generational wealth. So they can humiliate you. We didn't know about Isaiah Bond. I had to read about that. Not a coincidence these people are ending up in Cleveland, which are dead ends. They never have to draft them. These players can go and start their own league and mind their own business. But I'm pretty sure somebody gonna try to meddle in that too. But you know what? It's worth it because clearly you're being held back before you get there to the point where it's life threatening. I was worried about Shedeur before we even knew about Kyren Lacy, because how can a young person withstand this much humiliation and a character assassination of a dream that's being robbed in front of 7 million people, and they lying on you, falsely accusing you? Shedeur survived. Kyren Lacy did not. And I don't know what the hell the goal was with Nyck Harbor, but I know he was targeted. It's not a coincidence. They teaching these athletes about sextortion. Yeah, okay. It's funny how the devil was the one doing the teaching, ain't it? So you better learn for yourself. So CJ Stroud had to endure what Lamar had to endure. You just probably didn't know about it. But did they stop? No. 2025, 2 years later, Shedeur went the extra mile to lock him out so he's not a inherent first round QB like Cam in Tennessee, because they didn't want Shedeur to take the helm of an NFL team and win. So they sent him to Cleveland where they figured he couldn't compete or wouldn't get the opportunity to. And here it is. He won every contest they had, and not a contest don't matter. Because they don't want Shedeur to be QB1, period. So who knows what they're going to do when everybody predicted now he's getting ready to start against the 49ers. So what, they going to hurt him, get him sacked excessively like they're doing Cam? Or are they going to trade him before that happens so he never takes the helm of an NFL team at a QB1? Are they going to continue to devalue him like he's not him? You know how you know that he's him? Because it's a lot of people involved to block Shedeur from becoming QB1. Shedeur would elevate the game. They want to make the game mediocre. So that's why he's not QB1. He was locked out of the first round, which is a lie they told. But they wanted people to think he never had a chance to become inherent QB1. And he was pushed so far down to the 5th round because they knew people would constantly say, he's only a 5th round QB. He's only a 5th round QB. He can't even pick his jersey number. So how is it that he could be QB1? The Browns said that didn't even matter. And they straight out lied. This flat out lie. He can't get first team reps because Dylan is the starter. And you got all day to practice. You done gave Dylan 160 reps and it didn't make a hill bit of difference. So you're not trying to win. We need Dylan to play a certain number of games. Shedeur can play the next certain number of games. And then there's Deshaun out there. Let's see if they find a way to disrupt what Shedeur is supposed to get an opportunity to be QB1. Let's see what happens. Oh, we evaluated Deshaun. So, we're going to elevate him to the 53-man roster. And since we had him first, we're going to let him play with Shedeur. Look for the play because it's there. So all of these sources that people are talking about when it comes to these players, when it's time to get drafted, you need to understand something. There's a source that you're not even considering. You see right here on the screen? You see this young man? Whether you know it or not, there were 3 people in the tunnel. And you see who he is pointing at. The one that's headed to the NFL. He's not pointing to the dude on the right, and there was a dude on the left. He pointing directly at the one that's headed to the NFL. And he's a state trooper, just like the state troopers in Louisiana. Framed Kyren Lacy. Abuse of power. And this is why they do it. Because they think they can get away with it. But just like the prank call against Shedeur was caught on camera, so was this targeting of this top NFL draft prospect that everybody knows is about to come into generational wealth. There are no coincidences here. And you need to start looking at other sources to take you down that might actually be internal. Luckily, this young man's teammates protected him because he needed it. Luckily, he wasn't by himself driving. Luckily, South Carolina is nowhere near Texas. And he wasn't in a green Dodge Charger after the game going to get a bite to eat. And there was no accident near round, because I'm sure he would have got blamed for it. Even if it was a mistake by the people on the road. Once they realized it was the star athlete getting ready to go to the NFL in the first round, we want to take him off or down a notch. And then he gets, let's just let this play out. Then he ends up staring at 50 years for a homicide he didn't commit. And they know he didn't commit it, but they let the case drag out and send it to a grand jury when they already knew he was innocent. You're being targeted, fellas. And it's not by these women that keep randomly popping up. That ain't all you got to watch out for. And sometimes y'all need to start asking yourself, who sent these women? Fans have long talked about how these women just randomly pop up, or it's somebody you used to date that came back in your life, or it's somebody that you dating and money matters more. Because if you see the extremes that people are going through, right? If you see the extremes that they're going through to hold back Shedeur, how apathetic the people at LSU were about Kyren Lacy. Shout out to Texas A&M for sending this man on his way. Let's hope that's the end of it. How when Quishon Junkins was deemed to not to be innocent, they already said he was guilty. His guarantees were hanging in the balance and he had to fight for them. And the DA said he was innocent, and NFL said, I want to keep looking. The same NFL that took Shedeur off the board, the same NFL that disembodied Kyren Lacy, the same NFL that devalued Isaiah Bond. And all of them end up in Cleveland except for Kyren Lacy because he's deceased. So yes, they're being targeted, but it's not only by who you think it is. And that's the point of that. You need to start looking at some sources. And honestly, it should deter you, and it should make you want to go and start your own league. You're going to keep hearing about Kyren Lacy because we haven't gotten to the truth yet. We know that he was framed. I know Brian Kelly was fired. I ain't saying that's exactly why he was fired, but there are no coincidences here. The LSU gets its first Black athletic director. You've been fighting that for 132 years. Suddenly, Kyren Lacy, and then the other young man who they kept forcing him to play, and he ends up with what? A tumor, a cancer? They talked about him on the pivot. That, and I heard there's a lawsuit coming that way. Not a coincidence. Now you want to have a Black athletic director. Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence. Daboll has been fired. Not a coincidence. They want John Gruden to replace Stefanski. Not a coincidence. They want Callahan and everybody else that has already been associated with some sort of racist behavior to become a head coach. Not a coincidence. The first rule of winning a war is knowing where your feet are. Knowing who the enemy truly is. It's not these little girls out here. You got to keep your head on the swivel about that too. But there's one that you overlooking. And you better open your damn eyes. And it took Kyren Lacy's death to bring the truth closer to home. Because after Kyren Lacy, people kept wondering, why the hell are they doing Shedeur like this? Why the hell did they disinvite Kyren Lacy to the combine? The truth was sitting right there. Why haven't they said anything? Why haven't they said anything about the Black players that seemingly are the only ones that keep deteriorating down in the streets in the hands of law enforcement with CTE? They don't say nothing about that. Sleeping with the enemy. So I want y'all to look at this video that's out here. That's a reminder of who it is that you have to look out for. That Black top draft prospects are targets to prevent them from claiming their generational wealth. Now it's up to you to ask just how much of an inside job is it? All right, so I want y'all to see this. This is important. I don't know if y'all know who Reese Waters is. I watch him. He's good. He had commentary about Kyren Lacy. This is a reminder. I want you to think about what you saw today. I want you to realize there were 3 people standing there. Only one was pointed out. And y'all know he was targeted. It was not an accident. It was not a run-in. It was not an altercation. It was not a confrontation. It was an intentional targeting of a top draft prospect in an area where people thought maybe there were no cameras. As this young man is headed to the NFL as one of the best, likely going to make 20, 30, or $40 million.
Empowering. But I don't know how else to tell anybody else that this is not mine. I didn't generate this. I didn't manipulate this. I didn't alter it. I didn't manufacture it. I received it from the district attorney's office. I then did my job and I compare it to the report and the investigation of state police. And it is drastic. It's drastic. The very last line of the report from the district attorney's office says, the evidence submitted in the crash report does not support that Kyren Lacy should have known that his actions were the cause of the crash that happened approximately 72 yards in front of him. And what we know is
now understand this. Even that's disingenuous because they had body cam footage. They had camera footage from the store. By this time, this happened in early December after he had just graduated from LSU. And he declared for the draft after this happened. And they disinvited him well before combine invites went out, even though the truth was there. This statement right here alone says he didn't know. But guess what? He wasn't even responsible. The woman in the white car was. And the police told her, don't worry, we're not going to give you a ticket. And went back in when a report was filed and gave her a ticket for crossing the yellow-white line. Kyren Lacy was 100 yards away. The man in front of her that didn't even pump his brakes moved out the way because he could see, like most of us in our rearview mirror, that she wasn't paying attention. She was driving too fast behind him. If he's going 20 miles and she going 30 or 40, he don't want to be with a neck brace on going to physical therapy or worse, paralyzed. She wasn't paying attention. She said it. She had Funyuns in her lap or some kind of chips in her lap. And no experienced driver, when there's an incident, like the driver in a gold truck who pulled over to the right, crosses the goddamn yellow line. This was not on Kyren Lacy. If you wanted to ticket him for crossing the yellow line 100 yards away, okay. If you wanted to ticket him for speed 30 minutes back, okay. But you're going to need some proof. But to pin this on him, when they realized the green Dodge Charger, believe me, he came to mind in this little town with the cars being white, blue, red, and gray. They knew it was him. That's why they falsified the report. That's why when the man told the trooper what the truth was, he didn't care about that. He changed the conversation right back to the green Charger. He just didn't want to say Kyren Lacy out loud. And even when they were in the hospital, the girl said, if that's who they think it is that drives that car, they knew who it was and they continued to lie and be led into a lie because she wanted to cover her butt, but she was guilty. It was her actions that killed the driver. It wasn't Kyren Lacy speeding 30 minutes away. It wasn't Kyren Lacy 100 yards away. The man didn't move off the road for Kyren Lacy. She didn't swerve to the left for Kyren Lacy. She's the second car. There's no way you ever saw Kyren Lacy over 75 yards away. This is lies. But the problem is they let the lies stand. They knew it was wrong. But it was more important to send it to a grand jury because these things take time. Conveniently, 2 weeks before the draft, because these things take time. So at the same time, Kyren Lacy was supposed to go to a grand jury after staring 50 years in the face for a homicide that he didn't do. And he kept asking his mama, why don't they believe me? I know it was confusing for him. Because it didn't make no sense. Because it was intentional, just like that trooper targeting Nyck Harbor and not anyone else. Because he's headed to the NFL. And if I'm Kyren Lacy's parents, that will make me sick to my stomach. How LSU handled it, how they still letting the troopers come around, how Brian Kelly handled it, and that they done fired everybody and replaced the AD with a black athletic director all of a sudden. I would look at what happened to Shedeur. I would learn about what happened to Isaiah Bond. I would learn about what happened to Quishon Jenkins. So Kyren Lacy was supposed to have a grand jury hearing at the same time Isaiah Bond was locked up for being falsely accused. He lived and got devalued. 2 weeks before the draft, Shedeur was tumbling. He might tumble out the first round. He lived to get devalued. Quishon Jenkins gets a charge. The DA said it could go away. We still want to look into it. They tried to devalue him. I don't know if he got his guarantees or not, but it's not a coincidence that they wanted to still investigate while he was trying to get paid and get his guarantees, something that they fight these black athletes or these football players on, because understand Carson Swessinger, who was a second round pick, got a guaranteed contract and he's white and he plays for Cleveland too. So it seems like they make the black players' lives harder, not just in the NFL, but as they are on their way, as they are identified as a top draft prospect.
Never disputed ever that he passed those vehicles. They were in a row, 4 vehicles in a row. We know they were going 30 to 35 miles an hour. He passed them. It was a no passing zone, but he got back in 92.3 yards. He was back in his lane of travel. He was 72 yards behind at the time of impact. We know that now.
Now, I do want to express some gratitude for everything that went into compiling the report and all of the evidence that Attorney Ori put together in order to come to this conclusion. But the natural question would be, if this is what he received from the authorities, then that means that the authorities already had this in their possession.
Right.
So why did we ever get to that point when this was evidence you already had in your possession?
So, look, don't worry about filling any of this top information, like your name, your address. Don't worry about any of that. Just right here, if you could, I'll just have you write exactly what you saw. Just make sure to include, where you were.
I don't even know what the name of that highway.
It's Highway 20. Highway 20. That you just.
All right, maybe my wife gonna figure out right quick.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes and the brakes, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger, and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger. That's.
I ain't skid mark or nothing. I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't saw what's happening. That's how she called that wreckage. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side. And right in there.
So, but the charger was coming right at you, correct? Right. And that's why you had to slam on your brake, the head on, which.
All right, so there you go. The charger was coming at you. Yeah, he was coming my direction. Yes, I saw him. That don't mean he caused this accident. This man said it. This man said it out of his own mouth. That lady behind me caused the accident. That's why he moved off the road. He didn't slam his brakes at all. He didn't pivot off the road to the right in a ditch because of Kyren Lacy. 92 yards away. 72 yards when they hit impact. Because the lady behind him, like a lot of people behind you, are not paying attention. And running off to the left while you eating, tells you ain't no good driver. Because who does that? Your instinct should never go to cross the line into oncoming traffic, ever. But you see how he led him. And they did the same thing when they went to the hospital to talk to the girls. And the girls even said it. I think everybody know who that is. They all knew who it was. He was targeted just like Nyck Harbor. State trooper targeting top Black draft prospects. Not a coincidence, people. So that's where we are with that. Shout out to Reese Waters. I follow him. If y'all don't follow Reese Waters, please go follow Reese Waters. Very, very informed. Just gonna break it down regardless of whatever the topic is. I just think he's really good. And I feel like he's about to approach 1 million subs. So if y'all don't know who Reese Waters is, please go watch it. His segment called Who Raised Y'all? It's really good. It's really good. All right. So when I first started talking about Kyren Lacy, I noticed my video not getting a lot of love, but I didn't care because I didn't worry about that. It was about getting out the truth. And I told y'all, I saw Kyren Lacy's mom in I guess my stories or something like that. And I said, she was talking about, she's grieving, right? And I remember my mother was telling me, grief. She was explaining to me how it never goes away, how just out of the blue, it'll just hit you, right? And it's a lifelong thing. So, I'm always careful what I say to people, and me keeping in mind that she's grieving. She was talking about how there's a lot of things that have happened that people don't know about. And I said, I have a podcast. I'm happy to offer you a platform. And she liked my post. And this wasn't in the comment section. This was in stories directly to her, and she directly back to me. Now, after I saw what happened too, I already wanted to send her the videos I did on Patreon about Kyren Lacy, but she's grieving. So I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to aggravate anything. Because like my mom told me, it just comes back out of nowhere and it just, hits you and it doesn't go away. But then when I saw what happened today, and I've seen her a few times since then, and it looks like she's doing okay. But again, I know what my mom taught me, right? So I don't say nothing. But then when I saw the trooper targeting Nyck Harbor, and I checked to see Nyck Harbor top draft prospect in this draft, not next year, this draft. And I already know what I said about the connection of the state troopers to the universities, in particular LSU, because I'm from New Orleans. I watched the Super Bowl parade, and I was shocked that LSU was in the Super Bowl parade, number one, until I realized they were behind the host float. And then it's the Pride of Louisiana. That's how they wanted to set it up. But I noticed that they were escorted by LSU state troopers. And nobody else in the parade was escorted by LSU state troopers. And I was like, interesting, right? So when the Kyren Lacy situation happened, and it was the state troopers, and I already knew that they escorted the football team. Now I know they were there to protect the head coaches. They're there on the sidelines. They know who the players are. Kyren Lacy's car stood out because he's from a small town in Thibodeau. He had just graduated. So there's a stretch that goes from Thibodeau that goes somewhere else, probably to a freeway that you could get to Baton Rouge. And there's state troopers that are always parked in Louisiana. Because on any road trip y'all have seen me on, believe me, if I ain't the one driving, I'm telling the driver, we in Louisiana. From the moment we cross over from Mississippi to Louisiana, before you get to the bridge that goes to Slidell, state troopers. Before we get anywhere else out of New Orleans, state troopers. Lafayette, state troopers. Before you get to Vincent, Louisiana, state troopers. It's everybody know it. It's like they always out there, they visible. So they've seen Kyren Lacy in the green Charger go from Baton Rouge to Thibodeau. They knew exactly who he is because they escort. There's only 1,000 state troopers throughout the state. There's like 4 regions. So the region that covers LSU, or the police that come from the region too, because that's what they want to do it because maybe it's a good thing to do or it's extra money or whatever. They are employees of the university. That's why Texas A&M could take him off of his assignment, send him home, and fire him. He was not Texas A&M campus police. He was Texas state troopers that get a job through the university, just like the LSU state troopers. And it had to hurt anybody that cared about Kyren Lacy to listen to the way Brian Kelly lacked apathy in his response about Kyren Lacy. We don't really want to talk about these things. I said that before because, these things take time. Bullshit. You heard Reese Waters. The only question I have is if you have this information, they already had it. So everybody sat on it. Everybody. That's the only way you can say, just hold on. You'll be exonerated in the grand jury because you had the information. Everybody guilty in this situation. I hope his parents, who have realized what was going on, how they felt Brian Kelly lacked empathy where their son was concerned after he died. I hope they hire Big Crump and sue the hell out of everybody that sat on this young man's innocence and intentionally targeted, ensnared him in something that he didn't do because he's headed to the NFL as a top draft prospect and he's Black. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. So let me see what y'all are saying. Shout out to over the people that are in here. I appreciate everybody being in here on a Saturday. I'm going to go through y'all comments and I'm going to get myself out of here because I'm headed out of here. All right. So, hey, Tina, how you doing? How you doing? Hey, Nikki. Hey, Roger. Peace, blessings. How you doing? How you doing? Hey, Isaiah. How you doing? How you doing? It said, it's just crazy collusion. Yes, it is. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Exposing the truth. The Giants owner never drafted Black QBs. Right. And what was the Giants, the GM, is supposedly heard on camera telling Shedeur at CU's pro day, you're going to help us save our jobs. They knew when they got to CU pro day that he was not going there. It is not a coincidence they all went to Ole Miss, the Mannings, Ole Miss. They wanted their guy. Well, you got it. Joe Schoen should have been fired after the debacle with Saquon Barkley. But yet he was allowed to keep failing up. And now look at the pickle the Giants are in. I said to somebody, the Giants, I posted on X, I said, the Giants going forward, meaning until you do right by me, but the Giants going forward going to be on the downside of a wrath of God. Because I said Shedeur Sanders is a child of God, and most of us know that. Somebody said, nah, because that would have happened already. And then they pointed out how what's going on over there. I said, correct. Like you said, it has already started. And it's because I didn't say Shedeur was the only child of God. I said Shedeur is the only child of God that was humiliated in front of 7 million people by the goddamn New York Giants. So from now until perpetuity, they're going to get it. And Cleveland is next. But see, Shedeur is still over there. So I suspect after he's gone. Watch out. But do you see how what's happening with Nyck? See, most people who are quick to post, they don't take the time to absorb the connections. I saw it like that because I know the connections that the state trooper have to LSU. I saw the press conference with Brian Kelly, and I said myself, well, damn, that was a horrible response. I also know he got fired, and y'all heard me say, not a coincidence. It ain't a coincidence that ball got fired. It ain't a coincidence they pushed the Podesta out, but you sit there over there still protecting who? Stefanski. And what did I say? I said, if they want to keep sticking with Stefanski, they better get ready to be investigated for organizational malpractice and sued for civil rights violations. And now Stefanski want to be nice because he's a legal liability. This is making its way back to the NFL. People should have asked. People did ask, why did the NFL disinvite Kyren Lacy? They ain't getting no answer, though. There's more connections to this situation to come. Not coincidence that we're seeing another Black NFL draft prospect be targeted by a state trooper before the draft. As it's pointed out, he's a top draft prospect. They even have who it is that his skill set is similar to. DK Metcalf, Calvin Johnson. I remember everybody running out buying Calvin Johnson's cleats. I remember that. I don't know who he is, but I just remember it. I know he was popular. I know he was good. So they didn't just compare him to anybody. He's like that. That cop wasn't just upset because he should have been upset at any one of them in the tunnel. Maybe he didn't think the cameras could see over there. You always have to ask when it comes to these black athletes that are headed to the NFL, what was the goal? And the one answer you him in the draft, not to exclude, to devalue. Yeah, they disinvited Kyren to combine, but they weren't going to disinvite him to the draft. So the grand jury that was allowed to take place knowing he was innocent, these things take time, was to be used to devalue him 2 weeks before the draft, just like Isaiah Bond. And to make him have to fight for what he's supposed to get, just like Quinshon Judkins. And don't be surprised if he would have ended up in Cleveland too. He's the only one that didn't, because he passed away. There are no coincidences here. It said the mom, the family, the family is coming out. I think they one of the foundational families. That's facts. That's facts. It said black players will always be drafted high because most are the top players in the draft. Yeah, but we talking about them being devalued. They want their athleticism. It's even documented. They feel like they need their athleticism. They don't want it at the quarterback position. Hence the poor treatment of black quarterbacks going back to the 1920s at Shedeur and now Cam and everybody else, right? But then we're talking about people like Isaiah Bond, wide receiver, Kyren Lacy, wide receiver, Nyck Harbor, wide receiver. You think that's a coincidence? I want their athleticism. I want their speed. I just don't want to pay them $40 million. Jimmy Horn Jr. was supposed to be a first-round draft pick. I don't care if he would have went number 32. You see they over there doing what? Underutilizing him. And you know what I heard somebody say about Travis Hunter today? Did the Jaguars get fleeced? I'm like, oh, so because he got his $30 million up front that they agreed to because he went fishing with Coach Prime, and that's on them, and he gets injured at work for them, they're getting fleeced, even though they were underutilizing him. This is about the money that they gave him. That's what this is about. So they thought they was going to rob him of the one thing he loved, and that's to play the game. So they underutilized him. And then when he got hurt in some weird non-contact injury, he gets to bond with his family. That's God's grace for him. Because they weren't doing right by him. And this is proof. Now, did they get fleeced? He didn't ask for you to trade up to get him. You did that so you could hurt Shedeur. That's why you gave Travis Shedeur's money and you gave Shedeur Travis' jersey number. That's on them. But out here trying to rig and manipulate and devalue and humiliate and discriminate. And you feel like you got fleeced because he asked for his money, went fishing with Coach Prime, and you gave it to him. They tried to stall him out too. So now they want to trash his reputation. Travis, don't be in no hurry to come back. Enjoy your millions. Yeah, if they could get them caught up in the scandal, they're not going to be. They're going to get devalued. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point of it. It said the NFL have on their payroll sports writers and commentators whose job it is to devalue black athletes to reduce their value and justify the reduction of money the NFL will offer them. Facts, because what did people say? It's documented. You can go look at it. If I said it, it's documented because I do research, right? Matter of fact, I actually thought I wanted a career in research. I did because I enjoy it. I have no problem with looking, and I'm gonna find it. And 2 + 2 gonna always equal 4 when I start talking. So my point is that there is documentation that supports that the NFL allowed these people to run around to devalue Shedeur. The reason Shedeur was locked out of the first round was so he doesn't become a QB1. Then he was pushed down on the board to get to 5th round and magically ends up with the Cleveland Browns like Isaiah Bond and Quinshon Judkins and probably rest in peace Kyren Lacy. Because they didn't want him to be a QB1. Because they didn't want him to elevate the game. This is the period in time they want to dumb down the game. Hence, check down Dilly. That's why. Shedeur is going to elevate it. I don't want to do that because the Dylans of the world and probably Arch Manning, they can't reach there. So I don't need you coming in and elevating the game and making it more exciting when I need you to check down Charlie. That's why Baker Mayfield probably wanted out because he can ball too. But you see, he got out because he's white. The black QBs don't get in. But I remember Coach Prime saying something to Travis before he signed that contract and went down to see Coach Prime. He said, don't be in too much of a hurry to get yourself into something that you can't easily get yourself out of. He was talking about that contract. That's the lesson Coach Prime needs to teach every damn athlete at Colorado that insists on going to the draft. And they need to start holding classes talking about how to start your own league. When you are going to get an MBA, you have to do projects. I don't know if most people know, but FedEx started out of a group project or a class project. And when the person that's over FedEx turned in his project, the professor laughed at him and said it would never work because you want to run all your packages through Memphis. He dropped out of school. I feel like he went to UT. He dropped out of school, University of Texas. He dropped out of school and said to hell with it. And FedEx is exactly what it is today. And shit's still running through Memphis. Don't ever let nobody deter you for what you know is right. And also, too, you got to start your own. Because now we see in 1 week, we're reminded of Kyren Lacy. We're reminded of Isaiah Bond. We're reminded again of Shedeur as we going into this Ravens game, which is just a participation event because Dylan has to play a certain number of games. So we running camp. We running camp. You get this many games. You get this many games. You get this many games. We're not out here trying to win. They just running camp. And we see they fans, they tailgate, and the tailgates have transcended the game itself. That's just for them to go out there and party. And they're going to do that in the snow. I heard one lady say they sat in the car for an hour while it was raining, waiting for the rain to stop so they could get to the tailgate. So it has nothing to do with what's going on the field, but it's still support for the team. And they probably not willing to stop it. And if they do, it's going to be a miracle. It's going to be a miracle. So we were reminded again of Shedeur in the draft, with what we saw with the trooper. We were reminded of Kyren Lacy, what we saw with the trooper, framing Kyren Lacy. Now we see a trooper targeting another NFL draft prospect, a top draft prospect, not just any draft prospect, a top draft prospect who's about to come into millions of dollars, generational wealth. And at first, it makes it look like I just want to take you down a notch. Isn't that what they said the owners did with Shedeur? They just wanted to teach him a lesson? Bullshit. They didn't want to pay him $46 million. So they handpicked Travis like they do at the parades at Mardi Gras. Handpicked the black people I want to give it to. And now they mad. Because they can't control him like they thought. Because he had the mental capacity to ask for his goddamn money because they didn't think he was going to do that. They knew they was offering him $30 million signing bonus. They just didn't think he would ever ask for it up front because Travis was supposed to be submissive because they saw what happened to him in his relationship. So they think he dumb. Just like they said, just like Eric Nicholson said, race Norman. They thought he was dumb. That's why when he asked for his money, they kept stiff-arming him. And they asked him about buying a house, and he was like, look, I ain't buying no house. Let's stick to the questions. So when he went fishing and he got his money on a Sunday, I said, damn, they know Coach Prime is influential. That's why they're trying to take him down. Greatness. This is why these players, and if Coach Prime, don't want to do it, set it up for your sons. If y'all just really want to play football, and football is a family business. But these athletes coming out of college, they better think long and hard about where they're going because now we're seeing all the pieces connect and it's pointing directly into the place you're trying to go as to who it is that's taking you down. And they getting extreme with it. And it's not just quarterbacks. And it's not just Shedeur. And it's not just Isaiah Bond and Quishon Junkins. Maybe it is Kyren Lacy. And maybe Nyck Harbor better watch his back and his front. Keep his head on the swivel. Hell, they need to start wearing body cams themselves. So, yes, I totally agree with you. Hey, 420, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? It said I can't wrap my finger around what did Shedeur do to these people. Shedeur didn't do a damn thing to these people, just like Kyren. Lacy didn't do nothing to these people, just like Nyck Harbor didn't do anything to the trooper, just like Isaiah Bond, who said he's innocent, didn't do nothing. CJ Stroud didn't do nothing. Lamar Jackson didn't do anything. But be Lamar Jackson and say, I want to still play quarterback. That's what he did. Is that wrong? Is that wrong to want to live out your dream when you came and got me? So you baby switch. You want to come and get me to be in the draft, but now you want to switch me off a quarterback because you don't want no black quarterbacks. You don't want no black elite quarterbacks. You will put somebody out there that you know is not qualified just to prove your point that black players lack the mental capacity. But no, you understand what you're signing up for. Understand what they think about you. Understand race norming is alive and well. Understand the extremes they go through when you are a black top draft prospect, regardless of position, to make sure you don't get to that goddamn generational wealth. That's how you better start thinking. But what you need to be doing is y'all putting your NIL money together before they take it away from you, because that's on the table too. And start your own damn league. And don't worry about this one. If they don't want you, don't force your way in there. Go start your own. It's called equity, ownership. Because this shit's going to keep happening. Shedeur did nothing. Shedeur didn't do nothing either, and neither did his father. This don't have nothing to do with his father. In fact, if you saw what happened today, you saw how the trooper intentionally targeted this young man, only pointed at him. You know, this didn't have nothing to do with Coach Prime. If you know what happened to CJ Stroud, this had nothing to do with Coach Prime. If you read the hit piece they did on Lamar, this has nothing to do with Coach Prime. Shedeur being locked out of the first round was so that Shedeur does not become a QB1 and elevate the damn game and take it out of reach for what they think white quarterbacks can't do. And I'm sorry, if I'm a white quarterback, I don't need you talking for me. Because Baker Mayfield is good. Matt Stafford is balling. So why is it that they want to keep dumbing the game down? So I can have an excuse to justify not drafting athleticism at the quarterback position. Shedeur's going to elevate the game, and everybody knows it. And you see the extremes they're going through. So what the hell are you doing? Start your own. Or you're going to pay the price. Understand that. You've been warned. Shedeur had a dream leading to his pro day at Colorado. He dreamt two men were chasing him, and he couldn't get away from them. When he got drafted by the Clowns, it said, I knew those two men were the coach and the GM. It's funny. See, you leaving somebody out. You leaving somebody out. You leaving somebody out. Who you leaving out? See, this is what people keep doing. Forgetting right here. The NFL owners ordered entitled Shedeur Sanders off the board. Who you think disinvited Kyren Lacy to the combine? Let me know in the comments. All right. See, this is what people keep doing. Haslam does not get a pass. The 32 owners that took Shedeur off the board don't get a pass. The NFL that gave out his number don't get a pass. Andrew Berry does not get a pass because he knew what kind of place Cleveland was. I'm not saying he knew what they was going to do, but he went along with the lie on day three of the post-draft press conference. He never had to say Shedeur's skill set is outdated. His skill set is not outdated. His skill set is getting ready to elevate the game of football, whether it's in the NFL or not. Nobody gets a pass in Cleveland. That's in leadership or them coaches. Nobody. And the players ain't getting no passes either because they could be saying something. But instead, they want to run around and tell other people, okay, you better make the sacrifice before you become the sacrifice. I know that. So that's what that is. All right. So he don't get a pass. I just thought that he intentionally bumped into him and his teammates turned him away. Yeah, his teammates were protecting him. Facts, his teammates were protecting him. It's that the NFL is just like Hollywood. Poor black men pairing black men with who they want them with. That's an interesting point, Gail. I never thought about it like that, but I could see it. I could see it. Shedeur Sanders has a bullseye on him ever since he mentioned NFL royalty. Shedeur Sanders had a bullseye on him the moment he ascended to QB1 in anybody's mock draft and a Heisman candidate. That's when he had a target on his back. That's exactly when he had a target on his back. It said, do you think that Jackson Dart was a targeted, being that my Giants lied on Shedeur? He was badly sacked and concussed. Dabo wanted him to continue playing Jackson while White Shedeur swagging on. Okay, let's talk about the flip side to what happens to black quarterbacks. Let's talk about the white quarterbacks that are used to hold them back. Kirk Cousins. What did Kirk Cousins say? They misled me. They lied to me. I would have stayed in Minnesota. I'm like, you weren't staying in Minnesota because you didn't get to stay. And the one that went to Seattle, Sam Darnold, he didn't get to stay. And Jackson and the other one, Daniel Jones, he didn't get to stay. Conveniently, Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones took the jobs of two black quarterbacks. So did Kirk Cousins. That's three. So they took three quarterbacks that were in Minnesota and booted them out to black QB's jobs. Not other white QBs. Black QB's jobs. Understand this. If I'm holding back a black quarterback, I got to put somebody in his spot. In Cleveland, it's Dylan. Do you see the arrogance that Dylan has about this situation when we all see what it is? Do you know he's been sacked 17 times? Do you know they expect him to fail miserably tomorrow? Do they care? They don't care about Jackson Dart either. And Jackson Dart knew that he was being used as a pawn, so he came out and said what? He thanked Russell Wilson. And then he mysteriously ends up being used as a rag doll. And they're going to keep him out there when they know they could have put Jameis Winston in. That's why when Russ got out there, it didn't work out. It was not supposed to. I can collude with you or I can collude against you. But Tyler Shaw was used. Dylan, you see how he's being used. You know he's not that guy. You know he looked crazy out here. You know he keep getting sacked, and you know CTE is real. And they don't care because the goal is to hold back the black quarterback. So Davao goes in the tent to make sure Jackson Dart comes out so that neither black quarterback on his roster can have the title of QB1 and save the day and be the hero, because race Norman says, right? So now it's on these white players to figure out what you gonna do. Are you gonna be like Dylan and scoff and buy into the gaslighting? Or are you gonna be like Kirk Cousins and say, I'm gonna get my $90 million, but y'all lied to me? You can pick a side. But you see what happened to Jackson Dart when he said, Russell Wilson helped me. They would let him get knocked out all day just to keep Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston off the field. They don't like him either. He was just blocking Shedeur in the draft. Shedeur was supposed to be the second quarterback off the board. It was Jackson Dart. And he's paying the price for it. So is Cam Ward. Shedeur is in the best position possible. Just stay on the bench. So that's what that is. It said, Texas A&M police posted that officer won't be on a game day duty. He should be fired. He should be fired, period. They said he was fired. That's what I heard. But I had a feeling there was going to be some kind of discrepancy. So that's what that is, guys. 32 owners, 3 words, skull and bones. If you know, you know. I think a lot of people know what skull and bones is. And I ain't going to even say that that's what it is. It could be, but I don't necessarily think so. I think it's more about what it's always been about, right? I want Black athleticism. I don't want Black intellectualism. That's all. Because the NFL likes to portray, or used to portray, that race Norman, that Black men are inherently inferior in cognitive ability to white people, not men, people, but we talk about the NFL, so they are men. They still believe that. They said they was gonna stop race norm, they haven't stopped. They haven't stopped. And it's gonna take the fans to hold them accountable, but yeah. Or some act of God, because the fans, no. You can see it. These fans gonna show up regardless. They're not even really there for the game. I know they want to win, but they're there for another reason. It's almost like when some people go to church and they're there all day. That's their social. That's their world. That's their life. So it don't matter whether the team win or lose. I'm going to see Mary at the tailgate. I'm going to hang out with Ashley at the tailgate. We going down to downtown Cleveland to the tailgate. Somebody got married there. That's their world. And I look, there was a white couple that got married there a couple of years before the black couple did. But even though they see how black players are treated, even though they see how black quarterbacks are treated, even though in Cleveland they see how Shedeur is being treated, they see the team not trying to win. Let's see if they still show up. So I'm gonna get myself out of here. This all happened unexpectedly because, you know, obviously I wasn't expecting to know about what was going on at South Carolina and Texas A&M game. I am happy to see Texas A&M move swiftly, but they didn't have their issues, right? So I guess they learned from their previous mistakes. Now LSU has a black athletic director. Let's see what they got going on over there, because it took them 132 years to get there, and they're only there after scandal. So, you know, we want to make sure that that's just not somebody that's being set up to take the fall for something else. Like the head coach over at Michigan, when Harbaugh left and cheated, he got stuck with the consequences, right? So we'll be back tomorrow. Oh, we're already set up. I don't know how this is going to go. We have been live through NFL games before. It was in the summer. I remember sitting outside. So we're already set up tomorrow. We're just having a boycott party. We're not watching the game. I'm going to keep an eye on the stats. I'm going live at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Pop in if you want to, hang out if you want to. Again, we're not watching the game. I will be keeping an eye on the stats. And we'll just be, you know, it'll be the hangout, the boycott hangout for the Cleveland Browns versus Ravens game. See y'all tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thank you for the engagement. Thanks for watching What She Said Sports. Do not forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and hype me up. Hype me up. Hype me up. Okay, everybody. See y'all tomorrow. Thanks for watching What She Said Sports.